So a week ago, I put out a video lamenting the fact that Tottenham had finally won a trophy, and it was especially disappointing then, especially since Arsenal have once again missed out on a trophy. And it is a bit frustrating that despite finishing ahead of both Chelsea and Tottenham, I imagine both sets of fans will be happier with their season than we are. That being said, in between those two finals, I have gotten to see my club become champions of Europe, which was such a special and emotional win that I can't say these two wins for Tottenham and Chelsea have quite the same sting that they would have if Barcelona had won that final in Lisbon. So I'm actually still feeling all right now. And I'm all right to have Chelsea have their moment. It was a very young Chelsea team going in at average age of 24. Chelsea has had quite a few issues through the past few seasons. Obviously, came with finishing 12th, which, considering what Man United and Tottenham have done this season, isn't even the worst that a Big Six club has done anymore. They kind of got back last season, managed to steady the ship, especially near the end, and had a really strong start this season. But if I'm being honest, if I were a Chelsea fan, I feel like I'd still be a bit disappointed with how the season went just because of how strong that start was for Chelsea and how it kind of petered out towards the end. But they do get to end it with a European trophy, so that's not, them probably won't be too upset anyways now. I will say, I feel like there is kind of this feeling that Chelsea's name was going to be written on the trophy as soon as the Conference League teams were shown. Like, as soon as we knew who was going to be in the Conference League, there was always kind of a feeling Chelsea was going to win. And that makes sense. The Premier League is probably, in terms of all around quality, the best league in Europe, the best league in the world by a long shot. And it's coming to the point now that like players competing near the top, even in leagues like Spain, France, and Germany, are now going to mid-table Premier League clubs. Such is the financial gap between the Premier League and everyone else. And especially for a club like Chelsea, there had to be this feeling that they were going to win it. But I wasn't completely convinced, at least before the final, that this was going to be a Chelsea win. I wouldn't go as far as to say that I thought Real Betis were going to win, but they certainly had a shot. They've been playing some really good football, and a Spanish side has not lost a European final against a non-Spanish team since 2001. And even with that being a bit embellished by how dominant Real Madrid have been in the Champions League and Sevilla in the Europa League, it's still a remarkable run of finals from La Liga that they've continuously won them. Whenever a Spanish team has been in a final, a Spanish team has won. The only time Spanish teams have lost is when they've gone up against other Spanish clubs, for instance, when Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid played in the final. So that came to an end tonight. It didn't look like it from the start. I'd say that the experience of Real Betis probably showed through. I mentioned Chelsea's average age before, how it's 24. They were quite young, and I think that perhaps that inexperience showed a bit because youthfulness by and large is a good thing I think in football because the older you get the less your body can cope with just the stresses of playing professional football. It is quite a demanding thing, and the older you get, the harder it's going to be to keep up with that. But the downside of having a youthful team is you do lack some experience you might otherwise have, and I think that was perfectly exemplified with Isco on Real Betis, who has played in and won multiple Champions League finals with Real Madrid. So he was probably the most experienced player on that team, and it showed early. Real Betis were definitely the better team in the first half. They had some really nice passing, a few good shots. I was actually kind of disappointed because I think they could have been leading by more than 1-0 at halftime. They missed one really good chance, and I think they probably should have had at least a 2-0 lead going into the break, and that opened the door for Chelsea a bit if they could get things right in the second half, which it inevitably seemed like they did, absolutely blowing away Betis in the second half. I mean, I didn't see 4-1 coming at all with how well Real Betis are playing in the first half. Chelsea seemingly got their act together at the perfect time. And that is a win for their youthful team that might lead them on to better things. As I said before, I think that Chelsea have kind of been disappointing in the second half of the season. Not necessarily awful, but poor considering how well they started again. But like I can't imagine too many Chelsea fans will care right now after winning the European silverware that they did. And they're also the first club to win the Conference League, Europa League, and Premier League. The Conference League has only been around for 4 seasons, so it's not like too many clubs have had the opportunity. Uh, yeah, I don't have too much more to say. Congrats to Chelsea, I guess. Can't say I'm a huge Chelsea fan, but good job. You definitely deserved it with that second half performance. So, congrats.